Hi, folks. With Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the touchy issue of demographics. Now, Elon Musk has sort of brought it back onto the front page with a post on Twitter, or X as it's now known, and where he said, I haven't got the quote in front of me, so I'll paraphrase this, but where he said whether or not demographic replacement is some big master plan, whether it's accidental, whether it's a byproduct of other forces, whether it's whatever, wherever the impetus comes from, the demographic replacement is happening. Now, the reasons why we can debate, but it is happening. Now, interestingly, Wikipedia and other globalist-controlled propaganda outlets say, "Well, no, it's not. It's just it's Hitler. Hitler is saying that it's a right-wing conspiracy theory made by Hitler," and of course, that's absolutely absurd. Now, at the leftists, or the globo leftists, at the same time celebrate that all the white countries are going much less white. So they celebrate that, scream their joy from the rooftops, whilst at the same time saying it's not happening. So there's an interesting horns of the dilemma there. But looking at the, there's no question it's happening. Now, for people who are younger and sort of don't know a whole lot different, but anyone, over the age of 40 in the West will have seen an incredible change in the racial mix of Western countries. It's only happening in white Western countries, but only there. It's not happening anywhere else, just white Western countries, which in itself is something to consider. Well, why is that exactly? Why are Indians and Chinese by the hundreds of millions not going to Africa, for example? Why are Chinese not by the hundreds of millions going into the Middle East, Iran or somewhere? Why is that not happening? It's only, this ethno replacement is only happening in white countries, and it is being aggressively pursued by Western governments that no longer represent the Western voter and white voter, but fully represent and are the stooges and flunkies for the globalist cabal. So that's not a matter for debate. That's fact. Why it's happening, and the intricacies of the mechanics, again, we could debate and argue, but that it is happening, and that all Western governments are under globalist control, with the exception of President Trump, that we don't need to debate. That is a fact. If you look at the behaviour of the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, Keir Starmer, Merz in Germany, Macron in France, they're all fanatically committed, I would argue, globalists, and in pursuit of the globalist project. The globalist project requires whites to become a minority in all white countries, which is certainly happening. It's happened. Now, I remember, just to sort of, you could go to a few. I remember as a kid at school, I was briefly at a school which was multiracial. I never really thought about race at the time, never crossed my mind. It was just another kid, I noticed a very different behavior from different racial groups, even as an 11-year-old. Why do the Arabs behave this way? Why do the Chinese behave that way? So I would see differences in behavior, but I didn't really see races at the time. Not as a kid. I thought, they're just other people, other kids. And it never really crossed my mind. But I did see the difference in behavior. And you notice patterns of behavior that certain racial groups produce certain behaviors, and not every single person behaves in exactly the same way. But if you look at them as a group, so why is it that the Arabic kids are always doing such and such? There's hardly any exceptions to it. They all seem to want to do that, and they're very ethno. So they're not intermixing with other groups. Now that's the case even today. I was recently on a train journey. The schools have come out, and you've got the Chinese group here, the Indian group there, the Korean group over there, and the black group here. And so no one's, and this is school kids. They're all sitting next to each other in class, and they're all, there's quite an emphasis. But the control of what is ethnocentric and what is not, what is racist and what is not. All the controls are on the white people. Only the white people must be controlled. Only the white people must be shamed and blamed. Only the white people must be told they're racist. Every other group is permitted, if not encouraged, under the facade of multicultural. Every other group is encouraged to be ethnocentric and to look after their own and to favour their own and to engage in patronage and nepotism amongst their own. Only the white people are not allowed to do that under threat of imprisonment in some countries. Britain is a case in point. So looking at the, I was at a, this is in a downtown CBD type thing. I was at quite a large gathering. I think it was some product release from a big multinational firm. So it was a bit of an extravaganza in terms of the amount of people there. Had nice food and everything laid on. And there must have been, I don't know, 200, 300 people there. It was bigger, pretty big, and it was in a large auditorium. And everybody was white. There was some women there, but this was in early 1980s, I guess, mid 1980s, somewhere around there. And it was 90+%, 95% men, and so say 90% men, 10% women, but it was all white people. And this was only 40 years ago, not even that. And there was one Asian woman there, and she was so, I mean, she just stood out so much. It was all white people, sea of white people, and just one Asian woman was there, and she just, like, you couldn't sort of not look at her. She just seemed very unusual and very and again, the same, traveling on public transport or going around the CBD. You would rarely come across anyone that wasn't white Anglo-Saxon. It was very, very rare. I mean, you came across it, but it was quite rare. And if I was traveling on a train carriage and even one sort of black person or Asian person was on, even one that was, it was Indian, even one was like, oh wow, that it just stuck out. It was unusual. It was a head turning event almost. And I've mentioned a number of times recently how I've taken public transport around Sydney, and it's a total reversal. I am the only white person in the carriage or the bus. The only one. No other white person. I mean, like, holy fuck. And talk about a fucking total reversal in just a few decades. So this idea of demographic replacement is not. It's happening. It's happened. And the government tells us, 75% of Australia is still white. What's your problem? Stop whinging, you fucking damn Nazi. But that's simply not true. They're telling us lies and porkies. And wherever I go now, other than, say, far outer suburbs, rural areas, then they're still white. But anywhere within the confines of the city and the middle and outer distance suburbs now, they're majority non-white. And you can, as a train goes down the train track and you sort of school playground type area, and you're looking, you can see, is there even a single white? There's also numerous offices I go into now where there's hardly any white people at all. Chinese and Indian businesses in particular, they're just wall-to-wall Chinese. Yet there's not even one white person. The Indians may employ some red-headed or blonde chick to go out front, and that's their token little toy white person. They'll pick some low IQ white chick for that type. But other than that, and they'll only employ each other and employ their relatives and friends. So they're very, very ethnocentric. But if there's a white business that is 100% white or 99% white, then the authorities are asking, why? You fucking damn fucking Nazi, Hitler, swastika racist, and they're supposed to do something. Every race quota, gender quota, DEI, every one of these is only focused on one thing. That's having less white people, fewer white people. That's their sole purpose. They're not there for diversity, as in diversity of views, thoughts, levels of education. No, they're just less white people. So the replacement of white people at all levels, whether it be commercial or overall demographics, this is unquestioned. It's not. So we can come and say, well, why is that? Is it some big master plan to replace white people in white countries? And if there's this desire for diversity, why aren't a few 100 million Chinese being forced into India and a few 100 million Indians being forced into China? Why aren't they doing there? Why aren't they relocating 50 million Japanese into South Africa and then putting blacks into African blacks into Japan? Why is it only white countries that's happening? Now you could look at another way. So it's only in the wealthiest countries where it's happening, per capita wealthiest countries. They're the ones that are being targeted. So you could juggle that argument around there. Well, it's not actually against white people. It's just changing the composition of the richest countries. It could be that. I don't think it is, but for example, that could be something you could, in debating terms, play around with for a bit. Or is it something else? Is it a maniacal desire to replace white people? Now, when you look at the anti-white, anti-Christian, anti-male, anti-white male Christian, all that sort of propaganda and rhetoric around the place from supposed or alleged minority groups, it's very easy to take the position or the view that hatred of white people is at the root of it all, or white Christian people is at the root of it all. All those damn colonialists. What about Genghis Khan? It doesn't matter. He's Asian. It's the white people we hate. What about slavery? It's been around for thousands of years. No, it's the evil white, and so on and so forth. So it's a very, very sort of one-sided and very untrue, by the way. Facts have been conveniently removed from all these debates. But the anti-white sentiment is that you damn white fascist Nazis had it coming. We're going to replace you, and when there are no whites left, then it's mission accomplished, and it's what a great utopian world we'll have. This is of course utter nonsense, but nonetheless that's the general thread of conversation. So the evidence that white people are being purposefully and willfully replaced without their consent, by the way, the white people never wanted this or voted for it. It's a globalist initiative, so a non-democratic globalist group has forced this on the white citizenry and has just bribed or compromised the bodies politic of the West in order to achieve this, and thus have undermined democracy in the process, whilst at the same time claiming they're the protectors of democracy. The irony of that. So what other reasons could there be if there's not a purposeful, willful, and hate-filled sort of mission to replace white people, demographically replace white people? Then what is it? If we look at the elite class of white people, which, let's just be generous and say it's 10% of the white population, I think it'll be much less, but let's suppose it's that, then those white people will be diluted out of existence racially by very quickly. Once that threshold has been crossed, where whites are an absolute minority, the smallest minority in the hitherto white countries, then it'll be within less than a century. You won't find a single white person anywhere, or you'd be lucky to, if they haven't been taken out back and shot in the meantime. But there's another possibility here, and let's have a look at possibilities, that the structure, the economic structure of the white countries, where most of the world's wealth is, because they're the most efficient, best organized, most inventive, most innovative, although that's being eroded heavily these days. So as the economic structure is changing, what they're going to need is AI on one side, and then peasant, low IQ illiterate peasant laborers on the other. AI can't clean toilets. AI can't do trade jobs. There's a lot of things that AI can't climb under the cupboards and fix your plumbing and these sorts of things. So there's a limit to what AI can do. So on that side, the structuring of all the accounting jobs and all the whole lot of white collar jobs can be done by AI. How efficiently or effectively or or capably we can debate, but that it can do it and make it. I mentioned recently in a vid that I did that doing a strategy, sort of business strategy consulting, which is one of my fortes, that there was a guy who knows nothing, wouldn't know, couldn't spell the word strategy, and he went to an AI program. And he only pays like $100 a month or something for it. You go into an AI program and say, well, give me a business strategy. And I'm simplifying that a bit, but that was in effect the sort of, and it came up with the plan that it popped out for his business and his business area, his market area, was not that far off what I produced. Now he's paid me to do it, but when I look at the comparison, it's not that much short. Sure, it's missing some key things. Some of the sequencing is wrong. If he applied that exactly, he'd fuck himself up. But it's close. I was staggered at just how close it was. I thought it wouldn't be, I thought it'd be country miles apart, but it's not. And within a few years, that stuff will probably be equal to what any capable, experienced, quality strategy consultants could produce. So that work can be done by AI, or probably will be. It's just the toilet cleaner type work that can't be done, and that's why a class of people is being imported to do that. And they're coming from the third world. Now, if you're going to import workers, where do you import workers from? Well, you go to the places where there's a surplus population, a large surplus population. It's there that these are unemployed people, and you can give them a job they never would have dreamed of. Sure, it's toilet cleaning, but they would have had no job, with no prospect ever of a job where they were. So you bring them into the first world country, say, okay, you're now a toilet cleaner. Here's the mop and here's the bucket, and you can pay them a wage that a local worker wouldn't work for or couldn't work for, and then you put them in 20 to a one-bedroom apartment, and you change the entire social structural economics of the country in doing that to bring in your toilet cleaners. Now, the surplus population as well, they're all black and brown. They don't come from the white countries. So if you want to import armies of toilet cleaners, they're going to be black and brown. And therefore, that will begin an attrition level replacement, demographic replacement. It's not per se an intention, but it ends up in the same place, whether it's an intention or not. Now, some of it you could argue is there an organic factor here, whereas in order because the shifting asset classes in the West have moved where profit is, where risk is, how risk is managed, monopolies, oligopolies, and fixed outcomes for the wealthy. So the wealthy are able to demand and get fixed outcomes with very low risk profile. For example, a company that builds a road can say, okay, we'll build the road for you, government, but you've got to guarantee us a 25% return on our investment every year. And if we don't get that 25% return, you have to give us taxpayer money to make sure that we get the 25% return, or you have to force people to use our product or our services or our road, so you have to force them to do it. Put them in prison if they don't, or whatever. But you have to use the power of the state to guarantee us our profits. That's really where capitalism, crony capitalism, has gone. So it's not market competition capitalism anymore. It's crony capitalism and fixed backroom cozy deal outcome capitalism. And so this requires a different sort of work. You don't need workers with ingenuity who are capable of competing in the marketplace. What you need is drones and flunkies and stooges. You need a different type of workforce, and why not import them from some third world shithole? So there are those other factors as well that really, given that the elites have altered the structure of Western economy, it's not based on competition, innovation, or invention anymore, and therefore the type of workforce and its composition needs to be different. So you import again the proverbial third world peasant to fit. So there are a number of scenarios that could be debated in all of this, but that's irrelevant. And as Elon Musk has pointed out, it doesn't matter the fucking reason or the causation factor or the ideology goes into it. The outcome is the same. White people are being replaced, and it's not a myth. And at the same time, as you know, the Wikipedias can celebrate the far much fewer white people or the much larger number of brown and black people in the West and scream Nazis every time white people say anything. It doesn't matter. The fact remains in Australia, the population has gone from, you know, again, 97, 98% white to being less than 60% white. And it's in the space of 3 decades, for goodness sakes. And as I, again, just repeating, I can take public transport around Sydney while I'm the only white person on the train, carriage or bus. Go figure that. You've been Tassus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.